There was a kingdom called the Kingdom of Silvaris, ruled by a righteous and just king named Arion. He had 3 sons, Eldric, Zephyr, and Alaric. The youngest son, Alaric, was the dearest to his heart. The king was suffering from a severe illness, and because of it, he completely lost his sight. All the doctors of the kingdom were summoned, but none of them could restore the light to his eyes. Then the eldest and most experienced doctor said, "Our knowledge of this matter is limited. Summon a wise man. Perhaps he may find a solution." Wise men were gathered from every place, and they searched through all their books, yet they too were unable to provide any useful remedy. By pure chance, among those wise men came a sorcerer whom no one knew. After everyone had spoken, the sorcerer stepped forward and said, "I know many stories similar to yours. There is no cure for this illness, except in the city of the Sleeping Queen. There is a well there, and only the water from that well can restore the light to your eyes." The people were astonished to hear this, for no one had ever heard before of the Sleeping Queen. Before they could even try to find out who she was, the sorcerer suddenly vanished, and no one ever saw him again. The king's curiosity grew intense to know who that man was who had told him about the cure, but no one recognized him or had seen him before, so no one could give any information about him. One of the wise men said, "My lord, perhaps he is a sorcerer from the neighboring lands who came here by his magic." The king then asked, "Does anyone know where the city of the Sleeping Queen is located?" One of the men of the court replied, "My lord, we do not know where that city lies. If I were young, I would go myself to search for it." Then Eldric said, "If someone must go to search for that city, then I shall go. It is my duty, as the eldest son, to take care of my father's health." The king replied tenderly, "Well done, my son, well done. My blessing is with you. Take with you whatever you wish of horses, money, and all that you need. I will wait for your return for 3 months, hoping that you will come back, having discovered the location of that city." Eldric went to the coast of the kingdom and boarded a ship that stopped at many places during its journey. When the ship reached an island, Eldric went ashore to explore it. While wandering, he saw a very beautiful girl and became engrossed in talking with her. He was so absorbed in their conversation that he did not notice the passage of time. Shortly afterward, the ship sailed away and left him behind, so he remained alone on that island. At first, he deeply regretted missing the ship and failing to bring medicine for his father, but that girl made him forget his father's illness and the entire purpose of his journey. 3 months passed with no news of Eldric, and the king feared that he might have died. He had already been blind, and now the sorrow of losing his son was added to his suffering. To ease his grief, Zephyr said to him, "My father, I will go to search for the city of the Sleeping Queen and for the water of its well." The king was greatly afraid that harm might befall his son, yet he gave him permission to go. So he too went to the coast of the kingdom and boarded a ship. This time the ship was to stop at that island for 1 day. Just as his elder brother had done, he disembarked and went wandering in a garden, where the dense shadows of the trees were reflected on clear, fresh water. In that water, many fish of various colors were swimming here and there, and the sight greatly delighted him. Then Zephyr left that place and went to wander through the streets of the city. As he walked, he reached a crossroads with a marble fountain at its center. Around that crossroads stood many buildings, among them a palace of extraordinary beauty, with columns and walls of gold and silver that shone under the rays of the sun. From behind those golden walls, the prince saw his brother wandering about, so he called out to him, "My brother, what are you doing here? Why did you not return home? We thought you were dead." They embraced for a long time, and then Eldric said, "As soon as I set foot on this island, I was unable to leave it. Then I met a girl of incomparable beauty who possesses everything, and she has a very sweet younger sister. If she pleases you, marry her." Thus 12 hours passed, and Zephyr was also unable to return to his ship, just as had happened to his elder brother. At first he felt a little sad, but then he forgot everything: his father, the magical water, and the purpose of his journey. Like his brother, he remained trapped in that palace of gold and silver. 3 more months passed, and Zephyr did not return either. The king's anxiety grew stronger, and he and all the men of his court feared that he had met the same fate as his elder son. Then the youngest son, Alaric, announced that he would go himself to search for his brothers and bring the magical water. The king said sorrowfully, "You too want to leave me, I am already blind and full of sorrow. Shall I lose my last son as well? No, this cannot happen. I will not allow you to go, too. But Alaric reassured his father, promising him not to worry and that he would soon see him again with all three of his sons, safe and sound. So the king gave him permission to go, his heart heavy with grief. Alaric then headed to the kingdom's port and boarded a ship, which was also scheduled to stop at the island for 2 days. The ship's captain said to him, "If you wish, you may go ashore to see the island, but you must return to the ship at the appointed time, lest what happened to the 2 young men who went down here and did not return should happen to you as well. Since then, no trace of them has been found." Alaric understood that he was speaking about his brothers, and he said to himself, "If they went ashore here and did not return to the ship, then they must be somewhere on this island." So he disembarked, determined to stay on the island, hoping to find his brothers. As he wandered, he too reached that palace made of gold and silver where his brothers were living, and he saw them there. They met and embraced, and they told him how they had been unable to leave the island because of magic. Eldric said to him, "We live here as if in paradise. Each of us has a beautiful girl. The mistress of this island is my wife, and her younger sister is the wife of Zephyr. If you stay with us, you will find among their sisters one who will please you." Alaric interrupted them, saying, "My brothers, your minds have been bewitched, and you have forgotten your duty toward our father. I came here for the magical water of the well of the sleeping queen, and nothing will turn me from my resolve, neither wealth, nor pleasure, nor luxury." When the 2 brothers heard his words, they fell silent, then left the place angrily. As for Alaric, he hurried back to his ship. The sails were raised, and the ship set off, cutting through the waves of the sea. As soon as Alaric reached the land of the new city, he began asking everyone he met about the city of the sleeping queen, but no one had ever heard of it. After searching for a long time in vain, the people finally directed him to a very old sheikh who lived atop a mountain. That sheikh was extremely aged. No one knew how long he had lived. The young man climbed the mountain and found the sheikh with his long beard sitting in his hut. He asked him whether he knew anything about the island of the sleeping queen. The sheikh said, "My boy, I have heard of that place, but it is very far away. To reach it, you must first cross a sea that takes nearly a whole month to traverse, and the dangers you will face on that journey are countless. And even if you cross that sea safely, many perils await you on the island of the sleeping queen. The very name of that island is synonymous with misfortune, which is why people call it the Island of Tears." The young man was overjoyed when he heard the sheikh speak of that island. He immediately headed to the harbor and boarded a ship. The sea there was extremely frightening. Enormous sea creatures lived in it, and massive ships sailed through its waters. Yet the young man was brave and feared nothing. His ship cut its way through the claws of those monsters until it reached the Island of Tears. The island's port was desolate and empty, with not a single sound to be heard. Alaric disembarked and asked one of the guards for directions, but he neither spoke nor moved. He stood as if he were a statue. Then he turned to the workers to ask them to carry his luggage, only to find that they too were standing like stone statues. Some of them had heavy boxes on their backs, their feet lifted in the air, as if time itself had stopped for them. The young man entered the city and saw, on one side of the road, a cobbler who had frozen in place, his hand holding a shoelace. The streets, windows, and shops were filled with people, yet they all looked like silent, petrified dolls, standing in strange and wondrous poses. Even the horses, dogs, cats, and all other creatures were also standing in the roads as if they were statues. Alaric walked on through that strange silence until he stood before Erthim Palace, adorned with statues of the island's ancient kings and their stone carvings. In front of the palace was a long row of statues upon which was written, "Queen of the Shimmering Spirits, ruler of this island." The young man said to himself, "Where is this queen? And is she the same one who is called the Sleeping Queen?" As he was thinking about this, he climbed a staircase and passed through many rooms, all richly decorated. In them stood armed men, but the spell had affected them as well, leaving them rigid like statues. In one of the halls, he climbed a marble staircase to a platform on which stood a throne, shaded by a canopy. Nearby was a golden vessel in which a grapevine had grown, stretching from one end of the hall to the other. It wound itself around the throne and its canopy, adorning them with clusters of grapes and vine leaves. In the palace garden were towering fruit trees of every kind, and their branches extended even into the hall. As Alaric walked, he suddenly felt intense hunger. He picked an apple from the fruit in the hall and began to eat it. No sooner had he bitten into it than the light of his eyes began to fade, little by little, until he quickly became blind. He said to himself, "How will I move about now in this land, where the people stand like statues?" He tried by every means to leave the place, but he fell into a deep pit filled with water and plunged into it. He began moving his hands and feet, trying again and again to get out. As soon as his head emerged from the water, he felt his sight returning to him. He realized that he was actually at the bottom of a well, with his head above the water. Then he said to himself, "So this is the well that restores sight. The sorcerer must have meant this very well, and its water is what will heal my father's eyes. If only I could get out of here and carry this water to my father." At that moment, he found a rope, grasped it, and climbed up. When night fell, Alaric looked for a place to sleep and found a royal bedroom decorated in the most magnificent manner. In it was a large bed, and on the bed lay a sleeping girl, her eyes closed, and she was of extraordinary beauty. From the way she slept, the young man realized that a spell had been cast upon her while she was asleep, and that was why she remained in that state. After some thought, he lay down beside her and fell asleep. He awoke at dawn and wrote a message for the girl, which he placed on the table beside the bed, mentioning his address and the date of that day. Then he filled a bottle with water from the well that restores sight, picked an apple from the apples that cause blindness, and set off on his journey back to his homeland. The ship stopped once again at the island where Eldric and Zephyr had remained. As soon as Alaric reached his brothers and told them the whole story, jealousy flared in their hearts, and their eyes concealed an evil intent behind their silence. The brothers returned to the kingdom of Silvaris. When the king learned that his 3 sons had returned safely, he was overwhelmed with joy. He embraced them many times, and then asked them, "Tell me, which of you was the most fortunate?" The 2 elder sons remained silent, so Alaric said, "My father, I can say that I was the most fortunate because I found my lost brothers and brought them back to our homeland. I reached the city of the sleeping queen and brought from it the water that will restore your sight. Moreover, I discovered something even more astonishing, and I will show you now how it works." Then he took out an apple and offered it to his mother to eat. As soon as she bit into it, she lost her sight and cried out, "Woe is me! What has happened? I can see nothing." Alaric said, "Do not worry, my mother. I will cure you at once." Then he took out the bottle of water and said, "One single drop of this water is enough to restore the light of sight to you and to my father." But that water had already been exchanged by his brothers, Eldric and Zephyr. The water the young prince carried was now ordinary water that could not restore sight. Thus neither the king nor the queen regained their vision. The queen began to weep, the king's anger grew intense, and Alaric's whole body trembled. Then Zephyr said, "This happened because Alaric never obtained the water of the well of the sleeping queen in the first place. It was we who brought it, and here is the water." As soon as that stolen water was placed in the eyes of the king and the queen, their sight returned to them. Their eyes were healed, and the light of vision came back. At that moment, a fierce dispute broke out between the brothers. Alaric accused his brothers of theft and deceit, while Eldric accused him of lying. The king could not understand the truth of the matter, nor distinguish right from wrong, but in the end, he sided with the 2 elder sons and said to Alaric angrily, "Silence, you insolent wretch! You never intended to cure me in the first place. You even blinded your own mother. Soldiers, take this villain to the forest and kill him and bring me his heart, or you will be killed as well." The soldiers dragged Alaric by force out of the palace toward the forest. He cried out, begged, and explained his innocence, but they did not listen to him. At last, however, he managed to tell them his story and convince them that he had committed no crime. So instead of staining their hands with the blood of an innocent man, they made him swear never to return to that land again and set him free. Then they took the heart of a dead animal from the forest and returned with it to the king. On the island of the sleeping queen, as soon as Alaric departed, the queen awoke from her sleep, and the spell that an evil sorcerer had cast upon her was broken because of his burning. The enchantment shattered, as though it had been waiting specifically for the departure of that prince. All the people of the island awakened and returned to life. The queen rubbed her eyes in wonder and said, "How strange my fate is. What kind of man was this who came to this island, stayed in this palace, and freed me and my people from the spell under which we were held captive?" Then one of the maidservants came forward and handed her the paper that had been placed on the table beside the bed. From it, she learned that the man was the son of a king. Immediately, the queen wrote a letter to the king, demanding that he send his son to her at once, or else she would invade his lands. When the letter reached the king, he summoned his 2 elder sons, read it to them, and sought their counsel. Neither of them knew what to say. At last, Eldric said, "We do not know the truth of this matter, and one of us must go to the queen and ask her what she means." I will go myself to investigate. Eldric's journey was easy, for the evil sorcerer's magic had vanished. The sea monsters had disappeared from the waters, and all the people of the island had returned to life, so everything there had become normal again. He arrived before the queen and said, "I'm the prince you seek." But the queen, who did not trust anyone quickly, asked him many questions. "On what day did you first come here? How did you find this city? When you arrived, where was I? What happened to you in the palace? And what is the new thing you see today that you did not see the first time you came?" She continued asking him more questions, but Eldric had experienced none of these things, so he was unable to answer correctly, and began to stammer. The queen immediately realized that he was lying. She ordered that his head be cut off and hung on the gate of the city, and she wrote beneath it, "He who lies, his fate shall be like this." After that, a second letter arrived from the queen, addressed to the king. It read, "If you do not send your son to me immediately, my army is ready to attack your lands, and I will destroy your kingdom and your people." The king, already overwhelmed with grief from having ordered the execution of his son Alaric, looked at Zephyr and said, "And now what do you see? Have we sent Eldric? If not, then does that mean it is you?" He said, "Very well, I will go myself and see what is happening." The middle son reached the Queen's Island, but the moment he saw Eldric's head hanging on the gate of the city, he understood everything he needed to know. He immediately turned back and said to the king, "My father, we are lost. My brother Eldric has been killed, and his head hangs at the gate of that city. If I had entered as well, there would have been another head hung beside his." The king was filled with deep sorrow upon hearing this. He said, "What are you saying? Has my eldest son truly died? This means you two have been lying. Now I realize that my son Alaric was completely innocent, and that what happened was punishment for me." Then Zephyr said, "The ones responsible for all this, father, are us, your sons. In truth, we never went to the island of the sleeping queen. We simply replaced the magical water bottle that Alaric brought with an ordinary bottle of water." At that moment, the king began to weep and cry out, tearing at his hair in anguish. He then summoned the soldiers and ordered them to take him to the place where Alaric had supposedly been killed. The soldiers grew more uneasy and fearful, for in reality, they had not killed Prince Alaric. They had released him, and they did not know where he was now. The king realized that there was a hidden secret in all this, and a glimmer of hope stirred in his heart. He said to the soldiers, "Tell me the truth. What did you do with my son? I promise you that I will forgive you." The soldiers, trembling, told him that they had not carried out his order to kill the prince, but had instead let him go. The king was astonished beyond measure and nearly leapt for joy. He then ordered his herald to announce throughout the kingdom, "Whoever brings Prince Alaric alive to the king shall receive a great reward." A few days later, Prince Alaric returned, filling the king and all the court with immense joy. He then journeyed once again to the island of the sleeping queen, where he was received with a magnificent welcome. The queen asked him the 7 questions, and Alaric answered each one with complete confidence. Then the queen said, "Prince, you have freed me and my people from the spell and given us a new life. From this day forward, you are my husband and the king of this island." Celebrations were held on the island for many weeks, and the island's name was changed from the Island of Tears to the Island of Happiness. Friends, what do you think of our story? Please share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to our channel.